What's good, everybody? For once in this series, I'm not angry.
Stop.
I'm actually really happy right now. I'm actually having a really good day, really good week. For these next couple of videos, I'm gonna give you guys what I like to call free game. By free game, I mean I'm gonna show you guys how I produce my podcast. Just because I've got a few questions about how it's done. Let's get to episode 1 of my free game. Episode 1 is gonna be about pre-production. That is right, pre-production in your podcast. Before we get too deep in the woods, this is just what works for me in my process. Take this as you will. Hopefully you find something you like about it and you can implement it into your ways, but if not, it's cool. Thanks for the view anyway. In my opinion, pre-production is going to be the bulk of your work when producing your podcast. It helps you stick to a schedule and keep your content in a nice, neat, timely manner. And that way you don't go overboard and get too sidetracked and you have a focused goal of what the episode in particular is about. Step number 1 in pre-production for me is researching your topic slash subject slash person you're interviewing. My show is mainly an interview show. So what I do is I look up the person who agrees to be on the show and I go through their Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn if applicable, basically finding any and all information I can about them and form questions about that for that person. This is important for quite a few reasons. I want to keep it to mainly 2. The first reason it's important is because you'll have an idea of 1, who you're talking to and what they do. And most importantly, what they don't do. You don't want to ask a question to somebody who has no idea or no work in that field. Makes things really awkward when you ask a question they have no idea how to respond to. When you research and you bring up good questions and things that some people might not know about the person, it makes you seem more professional and it gives the interviewee a sense of comfort that they know that they're in good hands and that the person knows who they are and cares about who they are as a person. Your second step in pre-production should be coming up with your run of show / your questions for the person. Writing your show out, writing your questions out helps keep your show nice and organized and neat. And that way you can get done in a timely manner. For example, most of my episodes are done within an hour. I come up with my questions, my talking points, and everything about a week ahead of time, and I look over them a few days and of course before the show to make sure I have it. And I do keep it pulled up so that way I can segue into them when the time is right. But because I know how long I want the show to be and I have my talking points written out and laid out in a nice orderly fashion, I can keep the show to about an hour, maybe an hour and a half tops, depending on how the conversation goes. I will say oftentimes we do get a little off track and we just kind of banter back and forth about stuff and things. But the conversation should be a good conversation without it being forced. And your schedule should be there to be your guideline to get you through those talking points. Lastly, what I like to do is I send my questions and run a show to my interviewee 5 to 7 days ahead of schedule. That way they can go over and see what they like and don't like and be able to formulate an answer or be aware and cognizant of what's going to happen on the show. Sometimes we go off rails and that's okay because we're just having a good conversation, a good time. But more often than not, we stick to a pretty decent guideline of this is the show, this is what I'm going to ask, and we'll just go off of this. I even put in the notes that, hey, these are the questions I want to ask for the show, but we might banter back and forth and talk about different things or share stories. And I think that's okay. I think the guests appreciate knowing what's coming ahead of time. That way they're not blindsided by awkward questions or things that they're not prepared for. Like I said before, you want to make sure you know what you're talking about with your subject and your subject is aware of what's gonna come up on the show. What I like to do is if they say something that I'm really interested in and I think that other people will be, I ask them to either talk more about it or comment on it, and then we just go back and forth for a little bit. And then I'll bring the show back after a couple minutes. Them being able to see the questions and be able to form some form of an answer and know what's coming ahead of time makes you seem more professional as well. And again, it all comes down to keeping the show nice and neat and tidy. That way your editing process, which we'll talk about later in the series, is a lot cleaner and easier to go with. That's gonna be this video. I hope that makes sense. And if you do, go ahead and drop some kind of comment, like, share the video down below. Next episode, we're gonna talk about my favorite thing that I spend way too much money on, gear. Gear, software, and a little bit of the process of getting the show set up. But that's gonna do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. And again, please interact with the video, like, share, subscribe, do all the things. I'll see you guys next time. Be easy, y'all.